Played in the backyard at a place called Winslow when we were transferred there to the mountains between Bowral and Goulburn. And there I discovered that cricket was a real game, that I loved it. And I walked 7 miles there and back to go to attend the first match in which I was ever chosen. That was the Winslow Public School versus the Tallong Public School. And we walked it along the railway line, killing snakes as we went. Arthur Maley, the slow bowler, was my particular hero, whose deeds I followed very closely through the papers. He then was at the height of his capacity as a leg spinner and a bowsy bowler. It was from him, indirectly, that I learned that the bowsy existed, and I learned how to bowl it. The learning to bowl was done by correspondence, and that was done by the fact that my eldest brother Jack then had gone to Sydney to live, and he became a member of the North Sydney District Cricket Club, where he had the good luck to see Arthur Maley on a visit there one day, bowling his wrong-uns in the net. He watched it so very, very carefully that he was able to sit down that night and write me a letter about it. And from that letter, I reckon within a day and a half, I was bowling bowsies at our front gate post there at Winslow. It was an experience that I will never forget. It happened here on this Sydney cricket ground on the Saturday morning of the first test of the 1932-33 series, known as the Bodyline series. And I walked out, I should say probably about 11:30, following on Larwood having just bowled Lyle Nagle first ball. I saw Nagle's bat hadn't come down from its full back thrust by the time the middle stump went hurtling. And I walked out to be met by my mate Stan McCabe, who was then 127, on way to his famous 187 not out, which was the greatest test innings I've ever seen played on this ground. And he met me halfway and he said to me, "Don't worry, Tiger, he won't bowl a bouncer at you." And I had enough intelligence to say to him, "I know he won't waste one." So I went down that bottom end down there. I took block as if I really meant to stand up and give him Larry Dooley. I had a good look at the field, which is what every batsman does who wants to look like a batsman. And then this little bloke came running in from the distance. I say little, he was about 5'8". He had a chest on him as big as the village blacksmith. And I thought as he came up, now Billy Woodfull, my boss, said to me, "Whatever you do, don't get hit." And I thought, that's pretty good, that's reassuring. But as he came up, I thought, now, my mate down the other end, I better do the right thing by him. I got in behind my bat, and I thought the ball hit the middle of it before Larwood had let it go. So I looked down at Stan, I just shook my head, and he nodded. And from that time onwards, I took a very advantageous step to the rear every time that I faced Larwood afterwards. The feeling in the dressing room when a man went out to face up in that time, when it wasn't just a bouncer like you see nowadays, it was a bouncer with intent. By that I mean that the field was placed in all the positions which made it impossible for a man to use his bat to his own advantage. So all you had to do was to get out of the way of it, or duck, or do what you could. And the law of averages set in each man's mind knew that there would come a time when you didn't just quite make it. So the feeling in the dressing room as a man, Fingleton, any of the boys who went out there early on to take the new ball, Victor Richardson, Bill Woodfull, you'd almost shake hands, say goodbye and say, "Well, I'll put 2 bob in for the wreath when it's required."